Hey guys, what's up? Tony from MotoSiko here. Have you experienced na paminsan baka yung kadena nyo medyo magaralgal na pag tumatakbo sa expressway? Yung tipong kakalub nyo lang ng kadena nyo, pero kahit tumatakbo siya, hindi nawawala yung garalgal na tunog? Well, maybe it's time na you check your sprocket and yung chain mo kasi baka upod na siya. And that's exactly what we're going to do dito sa ating 2015 na Versys 650. So let's go! So guys, before tayo mag-start na disassembling our bike, we'll be needing a few tools and a few parts. Some new parts that we're obviously going to put on the bike. So let me show you. What we'll be needing here is a chain breaker. Kasi yung binili natin na bagong chain is not pre-cut yet. So we'll have to cut the links to fit yung ilang links ba ang dapat nakalagay sa bike. We'll also be needing a torque wrench to torque all the bolts up that we removed, especially those important ones. You'll be needing a long breaker bar para luwagan yung mga nut doon sa sprocket natin. And you'll be needing an 8mm and a 10mm na socket. So, ang gamit natin dito is a T-wrench and an L-wrench, but any socket and ratchet will do. Also get an Allen key set kasi we'll be removing some Allen bolts. A 22mm na open wrench. A 27mm na socket. Make sure that your socket pairs up with your breaker bar na same sila na like this one, we have a 1/2 drive. Also get some thread locker para yung mga tinanggal natin na tornilyo, we can put some thread locker to avoid them na lumuluwag pag nagvo-vibrate. And obviously, we'll be needing some sprockets and some chains. So what we have here is a DID na 520, it's not a 530, box lang yan. 520 na chain na it's 120 links. So kailangan natin putulin to kasi the Versys doesn't need that many links. And we also have a rear sprocket as well as a front sprocket and some nuts. The reason why kumuha ko ng nuts, I'll show you later ano ba yung nakakabit doon sa bike. So, now na kompleto na yung ating tools and yung ating parts, we can start to work on the bike. To start work on our Versys, first we have to remove the front sprocket cover in order to expose the front sprocket. So first you'll be needing to remove this plastic trim. What you do is you get your Allen, just put it here, put it in Allen key. Sa atin we'll be using yung given sa atin na tools. Tapos luwagan lang natin in order to remove it. This is just one bolt na may parang washer or spacer. Don't lose that. Tapos, it's just held on by some clips na lang. So, you just pull it out, set it aside. Now, the front sprocket cover mismo has 8mm na bolts holding onto it. So, you just get your 8mm socket and loosen those two up. So, move the cover aside. And before natin matatanggal ang sprocket, may isang sensor na nakaharang dito. So we have to move this out of the way first. The sensor is held on by an 8mm na bolt. Tapos we have to remove the remaining 2 10mm bolts na humahawak sa bracket niya. So tanggalin muna natin to and let's set the sensor aside. Tapos the 2 10mm remove. Yan. So now, we can remove tong bracket niya. Medyo matigas yan kasi meron siyang locating dowels dyan. So, just give it a nice pull. Matatanggal din yan. So now, we now see the front sprocket, and before we try to remove that, actually the socket we need there is a 27mm. Makikita nyo sa likod, meron siyang parang lock. Zoom in para makita nyo. Yan, you see this? This is a lock na pinapalo yan. So what we need to do is we have to get either a chisel or a flathead screwdriver and flatten that out before we loosen the lock. Now, pag gumagawa po kayo ng mga ganitong mga work tulad mapapad na sprocket, it's best na you get a helping hand. Kaya nandito si Edward. Siya ang tutulong sa atin.
Wasak.
Oo, magsira ng motor. Hindi naman. Yan, so yan, nakita nyo, pinapalo niya yung lock para mag-flatten out ulit siya. That way, mas madali luwagan yung nut. Now, ang isang question ng mga tao is, how often do I have to replace my chain and sprocket set? Well, if you have an owner's manual, you should definitely go and look it up. Makikita mo naman yung kilometers, yung intervals, kung when you should replace this. And sundan nyo siya. Kasi the last thing you'd want on a ride is matanggal nga yung, maputo lang inyong chain. Okay. So, mangyari ngayon, we can't just get our breaker bar tapos ipipihitin natin siya kasi iikot lang yung ating sprocket. So, if ever meron kang impact na gun like this, use it kasi malaking tulong siya. Pero, ang gagawin namin dito is we're going to try to show you na with a long breaker bar, parang ganito, long breaker bar, and yung isang socket, kaya rin siya lumuwag. So, all you need to do, si Edward, he'll be stepping on the rear brake para to prevent the sprockets from moving. Tapos, tayo, luluwagan natin siya. Tapos, nakaw ka na. Give it a good pull. Oh, in our case, lambot lang, oh. See? Yan. So, nakita mo, lumuwag na ang ating front sprocket. Hindi na muna natin siya tatanggalin all the way kasi later we'll have to remove the chain first. So, at least now, we've already loosened up the front sprocket. Let's move on sa rear. So, para naman tanggalin ang ating rear sprocket, first thing we have to do is we have to remove the rear brakes. Now, most Versys actually very accessible ang rear brake kasi ang exhaust natin nasa ilalim. Pero sa case ng itong exhaust natin, meron tayong long canister na Akrapovic. Medyo mahirap isingit yung tools pero I think kakayanin naman. So, ang gagamitin lang natin is like this. Kukuha tayo ng Allen key. So, as you can see, ito yung ating preno. And there are two bolts. Show you. There's one here. And another one dito sa taas. Here. So, kunin nyo yung Allen. Tapos, luluwagan natin yung dalawa. So, nakalagay yung L natin na wrench. Tapos, yan. Luluwagan natin. Pababa. Matigas ang tornilyo. So that's one. The other one, nandito naman sa taas. If medyo nahirapan kayo puwersahan yung Allen nyo, you can always get a wrench para siya magiging extension mo. Pero ito naman, bumigay naman. So we have to remove the two Allens, one at the top and one at the bottom. Yan, tanggal na. So, we remove the two bolts, just slide the caliper out and put it to the side. Kuha na lang tayo na pamunas para hindi magasgasan ng ating pipe. And yun. Yan. Then just settle it here. So ngayon, ang natitira naman, we have to remove yung axle nut. So the axle nut is held in by a 27mm na nut sa harap and a 17mm head na, 22mm head na bolt. Hawakan ni Edward yung isang side. So, yan. So, have your body hold on to one of the sides tapos luwagan mo yung kabilang side. Sa Versys nyo, baka may encounter nyo na merong cutter pin kayo dito. If so, you have to remove it. Pero itong Versys, for some reason, para siyang cutter pin. So maybe we'll have to put one later when we install everything back together. So just remove the nut. Ganyan. Tapos, get either a hammer. Tapos just lightly tap the bolt. Now, when you remove the tire, you slide the tire forward. You have to slide it forward in order to be able to remove the chain from the rear sprocket. And after that, ayan, nahulog yung, be wary pag nagtatanggal po tayo ng tires, may mga kasama mga washers yan. Like this one. This one is the right side natin, a small one that comes with yung kanyang bracket. So these two are sa left side, and there's also one big one here sa left side. So just put them kung saan mo siya kinuha para you have a reference when you put everything back together. So ayan. Now, we get to remove the rear sprocket. This is a tool I forgot to put pala. The 6 bolts ng sprocket natin is a 14mm pala. So you just get a 14mm socket and the power handle. Tapos luluwagan lang natin siya. Have someone hold it for you. Tapos luwagan mo siya. Matigas yan eh. Ganito natin siya luluwagan. So always remember guys, pag gagawa kayo ng sprocket and lalapag nyo sa sahig yung gulong, always have something like tayo, meron tayong isang tire we put sa ilalim to protect the rotor. Kasi sometimes, if hindi even yung sahig, pag na-press down nyo siya, baka you could actually end up bending the rotor. So always have something to prop the tire up before you remove it. Now, yan nakita nyo siguro yung reason why we have itong mga bolts na to. Kasi yung mga bolts sa old sprocket natin are parang mga yayamanin na tornilyo. They're color gold. And as you can see dati sa video natin sa Day1, we do not like yung mga yayamanin na tornilyo. So this is a no for me, no. So since may baril na rin tayo, might as well put it to use, removing these 6 bolts. And yan. The old sprocket just slides off. So ito, ang original na sprocket ng ating Versys is a 1546. So we're going to put the same tooth. Pero as you can see, actually what we have here is ang original nila. It's the Sunstar na sprocket. The Sunstar is yung original sprocket that comes with the Versys 650. Yung nakakabit sa atin, hindi ko actually alam saan gawa yan eh. Pero ayaw natin yun. Gusto natin balik sa original, so we'll put this in. Now, while nakabaklas na rin yung gulong mo, it's also a good time na to check yung wheel bearing mo. So, ang wheel bearing mo, what you want to do is you want to stick your finger in, tapos turn it, tapos it should turn uniformly. If may nafe-feel ka na may sumasabit, then it might be a good time to replace your wheel bearings as well. So, it's time to put in our new sprockets. It slides perfectly in position. Now, before we put them, nandito na yung mga tornilyo natin, we would like to put some thread locker or yung thread lock to prevent the bolts from loosening up through vibration. So, si Edward, lagyan na lang niya ng thread locker lahat yan. Habang nilalagay ni Edward yan, we're going to set our torque wrench at 59 Newton meters. We're at 59 Newton meters. Tapos, put natin socket. We've changed to a bigger torque wrench kasi the smaller torque wrench pala hanggang 50 Newton meters na pala ang torque niya. So we're going to use this. And when you torque your bolts sa sprocket, always torque them in a crisscross pattern. Tapos, daanan natin 2 beses for insurance lang. So yeah, we've torqued the bolts on. So ang ating rear sprocket nakakabit na. So habang nandiyan na tayo, ang next na gagawin muna natin is we'll be removing the chain naman. So yan, ang gagawin natin ngayon is we've removed the front sprocket that we've loosened earlier. And now, all that's left to remove is the chain. Now, yung chain na nakasama sa atin, meron siyang, yung mga majority of the chains, ang ganitong common is the clip type. So, all you have to do is remove the clip na that locks the chain, the master link in position. So, if hindi mo gusto, ayaw mo mahirapan sa pagtatanggal ng kadena, I think it's better pala, when you remove the front sprocket, niluwagan mo na, before removing the rear tire, tanggalin na po natin itong clip na to. Pero we already, so far in, committed na kami na tatanggalin namin to in this way. Yan, tanggal na. Yan. So yeah, there's the clip. Now, just tap the master link free and slowly remove the chain from Now, do not throw your chain away agad kasi we'll be using these again later as a reference point kung gaano kahabang, how many links ang kailangan natin na putulin doon sa ating new chain.